Hello, Vanessa from HBCU Buzz, and I had a quick question. Antebellum represented a great example of systematic racism, and your character Veronica was snatched from her successful lifestyle and basically thrown on the fields with other Black people. And so I wanted to know, in your career as an actress, have you ever dealt with a situation where you felt like you were being put in your place?
Well, thank you so much for taking time to watch the film and to want to ask me a question. I think, yeah, I have felt like the minority in the majority, being someone who went to a. Um, I always wanted to go to a HBCU, but I didn't get an opportunity to. I was actually accepted into Howard University, but I didn't go. I wanted to pursue performing arts, but in my performing arts program in New York, where I went to school, I was almost always the only Black girl most of my classes. And so, not really like put in your place, but just systems that were set up for us not to thrive as much as our white counterparts. I think being a woman, I identify, I live outside of the binary, but I'll always stand with Black women and marginalized voices. Um, and I feel everything from masculine to feminine, everything in between. So, gender for me is pretty fluid. But before kind of walking in this new truth and being a Black woman, sexism is real. Living in a patriarchy where women are being paid pennies to men's dollars, and just not feeling like you have the same agency as men. That's a form of keeping you in your place. Not feeling like you can discuss topics around sex freely, feeling like you've been put in your place. Being Black and not getting some opportunities because of where you grew up feels like keeping you in your place. Not giving the resources to underserved communities. I grew up in Wyandotte County, Kansas, and it's the poorest county in Wyandotte County. So there was things that I wanted to do and I wanted our school to do, but because you know, we just didn't have those sorts of resources. So I think that there are racist policies that I look at all the time that are meant for me to stay in my place. Yet I break free of them, and I try to create art that forces me and people around me who watch it to also break free from that matrix.
Hey, Miss Janelle Monáe, I'm Derek Sanders from Tennessee State University. How are you doing today? Um,
Amazing.
that's awesome, awesome. My question is behind your why. Why did you choose to pursue this? Why did you choose to accept this? We always have a choice in life, but
Hmm.
what's your why? I feel like a lot of times, especially in college as collegiate students, we sometimes go through these years and we lose our why. uh,
Mm.
Even though we have a platform to express who we are, sometimes we lose our why. So I just want to know, why did you choose this? Why did you pursue to keep going? Why did you
Yeah.
accept this offer and not something else?
Sure, that's a great question. I think the why is so important to keeping us rooted in our purpose. And I've always felt at an early age, especially at the beginning of my musical career, which led into my acting career, that my purpose is to uplift my community and to center marginalized voices, um, and honor and highlight Black characters, Black LGBTQIA plus characters, and those who have been pushed to the margins and um, you know not 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 nearly as much represented on screen. And so with this particular character, I felt in this role in Antebellum and playing Veronica Henley, who was this successful Black author. She's a mother, she's a wife, she's a pillar in her community, a beacon of light. And she finds herself trapped in this horrifying reality where she's forced to confront the past, the present, and the future before it's too late. I've found a unique opportunity to highlight on a global level what it's like to be a Black woman who carries the burden of dismantling white supremacy and systemic racism on her back every single day. I don't think people understand the centuries of work that our ancestors, that Black women have put in, to even the women now that we see leading the movements like the Angela Rise, to Congresswoman Maxine Waters, to Patrisse Cullors, to all the women who founded and started Black Lives Matter, to Brittany Packnett, to Angela Davis. That list can go on. And I thought this would be a moment that's so timely and so important, that would allow people to understand what it takes to lead in that way, and a reminder that we're leading those movements. But should we? We need a fucking break. We shouldn't have to dismantle systems we didn't create. It shouldn't be on Black women to be the superheroes that Black women are.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Monáe. My name is Jordan Allen. I'm a sophomore marketing major, political science minor from Howard University. And my question to you is as follows. Antebellum quintessentially highlights the trauma that many African Americans face when thinking about the horrors of slavery. So for many, this film is very real. Do you believe that America's inability to formally address the wrongs of slavery and indentured servitude contribute to the constant replay and reality of this horrific narrative?
Absolutely. I think that there's a lot of whitewashing about our history, and there is also erasure of our history. As we recently heard, this current person who is supposed to be our president is trying to get the 1619 Project out of schools. And if you have not, read the 1619 Project, I say that everyone should read it. And it really does contextualize, these racist policies that have been put in place to keep us enslaved in many different ways. And it talks about how when Black people were stolen and they were forced to work over in America for free and build this country, everything that we contributed. And that's not always highlighted. And I think that not only, what do our history books not tell us the reality and the horrors of what happened, but it also doesn't express enough that they didn't just take our ancestors and Black people. These people were nurses, they were doctors, they were dentists, they were authors, like my character in the film. They were mothers, they were healers, they were artists. So not only did they take our ancestors, but our ancestors were nurses, they were doctors, they were healers, they were artists, authors, just like Veronica in this film. They have real dreams and aspirations and goals, and we were robbed. We were robbed. Just think if we could have had all of that, and it was stolen from them. And so I think that we, as a descendant of our ancestors, I feel a personal responsibility to making sure that the truth is told, making sure that it is not erased, that people understand the connection between slavery and even in the Civil War. When we're talking about defund the police, when we're talking about abolish the police, we're talking about a system that during the Civil War, one of the earliest stages of policing was the slave patrol. And their main job was to terrorize, kill, and destroy Black people. It wasn't to serve the community. It was if you ran away, you were getting caught and you were getting killed. If you tried to start a revolt and you were Black, you were getting killed. So we have to remind people that we still have racist policies in play right now, from the prison industrial complex to, there is a long list that needs to be abolished. So my job is to keep telling the truth, because there is a whole campaign pushed against lies and erasing our history and what actually happened.
Thank you.
Hello there, Miss Monáe. I'm super excited to speak with you. My name is Carlos Mayers. I'm a senior entrepreneurship major, computer science minor at the illustrious Hampton University. I so much loved your performance. You're super well acclaimed, all-time projects behind you. I wanted to ask if you've ever considered exploring the world of maybe augmented or virtual reality as a new art form to express the messages that you do and see how it could impact themes of potentially horror, film, or the themes of messages that you do express, such as racial injustice awareness.
I remember performing at Hampton, so it's good to see that shirt. I was there many years ago. Yeah, I love VR. I love virtual reality. I want to actually develop a game, and I think more than ever because we're in COVID and we're, in the house. I think that we could all use some healing or some like therapy to take us on a vacation or to take us places. But you asked specifically about horror and exploring, some of these issues. Yeah, I think that every day I feel like Black folks wake up and we're like, we need to beat the game, you know? And I think that if we can have practice at certain um, systems that we're trying to beat, that could be of help to some of us. But I think that healing is important. So I think if it's like in a form of healing, then I'm okay. I think that we already uh, deal with so much trauma that we won't even know has um, caused us to be like to have anxiety in ways that we haven't had it before, or PTSD in ways we haven't had it before. And I think that if it's like used as a form of healing and as a form of um yeah, as a form of healing, I would probably say yes to it. And that healing could be in fighting, that healing could be in, we can talk about it, but I'm all for that. I'm all for like, what can we do to heal at this moment?
Wow, okay.
Hello, Ms. Monáe. I'm Shayna Jameson, Marketing Manager at the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. This is super exciting. And I remember seeing you perform at Hampton University when I was a student there. So this is amazing.
Wow,
Yes,
beautiful.
yes. So I wanted to ask you, with Black and Brown people always, with human trafficking and Black and Brown people not always getting the amount of media spotlight, I saw that was a forefront in this film. What are your thoughts on how we can do better in telling the message that Black and Brown people are becoming missing and that they need as much media time as possible to have them found?
That's a really good question. And I get saddened by the lack of public visibility around this issue. I mean, recently, they just rescued maybe 30 to 50 or 40 young girls in Atlanta, Georgia. I live in Atlanta. And that happened in Georgia. And the fact that it probably is happening under all of our noses in different parts of our communities is extremely concerning and horrific. And I think this film does touch on that. It does touch on the abduction and the stealing of our Black girls. And my hope is that this film can bring global awareness to it, because it's not just happening in Georgia, it's happening all over the country and in other countries. And that's all I can really do is try through art, through storytelling, to draw more awareness to the issues that I think are important.
I wanted to ask, how did you think this film really impacted your view of the social unrest happening today with protests, and how you feel like the film can really impact the nation at this time?
I think that this film does a very effective job at connecting the past, the present, and what could be the future. Things could get worse. And I think for Black folks in general, and poor folks in the LGBTQIA plus communities, like systemically oppressed, marginalized people, it can get worse if we don't figure out one, how to get this current president out of office. We don't even have anyone listening to us. And that's like one-on-one. Having someone who is in the position of power listen to the people who are impacted by these issues, by racism. If you're benefiting from racist policies, you have to dismantle them, eradicate them, and listen to the people who don't benefit from those racist policies, who are oppressed by those racist policies. So right now, we don't have anyone in office who's even lending the ear. So that's like very important for me to vote. And in addition to voting, hold who in office, and I want that to be Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I want to hold them accountable. I'm excited about holding them accountable and having a list of demands and working with organizers and people who do the work every single day to protect Black lives and to protect women. So I'm excited about holding them accountable and getting some real change done, because this centuries and centuries of living in racist policies, it's not going to cut it for me. And so I think that art, I think that movies, I think that this film will remind us of the fight, the long fight that we're still having. You know, there are still people romanticizing the antebellum South. There are still people who would love to see us as Black folks being the same people that we were in the antebellum South, not having any freedom, not having any rights. Like, you know, that's a reality, and is not far-fetched. It could absolutely happen through policy. I mean, if you think about the Fugitive Slave Act, we know that in 1850, September 18th, the day this movie is coming out, that the Fugitive Slave Act was passed, was a part of like the Compromise Act, and it required all the slaves to be returned to their masters, even if they were free. Even if you showed your papers, you were in a free state, they could send someone to go capture you. And this was done like on this was done after we had already been like considered free folks. We can go about our lives. So the act of like someone on a federal level saying you must be returned to your master, that was through policy. That wasn't just like, oh, someone decided that this needed to happen, and they put it in writing. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot at stake, and we have to connect those dots, and we have to know where it starts from the police. When we say defund, like I said, defund the police, abolish the police, we're saying you have to get rid of this system that was rooted in hunting us. It was never meant to protect the people. Figure out something that works for us, not to have us living in terror and fear just because of the color of our skin.
What was your biggest takeaway as Miss Monáe, as Miss Janelle Monáe? Outside of acting, outside of everything, what was your biggest takeaway from this film that is going to impact the rest of your life? And what impact do you plan to leave on the lives of other people?
Well, I was impacted greatly. This wasn't like an easy yes for me. It wasn't an easy yes, because I knew that I was going to have to go into I had to go into survival mode. There were moments where I had to put myself in the shoes of my ancestors. And I don't, that's not something that I'm running towards. It's something that I've read about, and I already just could not even imagine the pain and the suffering they had to go through. As an actor, though, I had to tell the truth, and I had to call on the ancestors and figure out how to get their spirits to come across. I didn't want people to see Janelle Monáe during certain moments. I wanted them to see our ancestors. Like we filmed on a plantation. It was the same plantation of Django Jane for some of the scenes, or not Django Jane. I'm Django Jane, but we filmed on the plantation that they filmed Django Unchained on. And putting my feet on that soil was very powerful. I had never been, on a plantation. I got really upset, just like thinking that that our ancestors were violated on this same soil. And so there were moments where I felt like they were just guiding me. You know, I'd never had that experience where I just felt every turn, every head turn, every movement like I was guided. All of my strength was pulled from them lifting me up during moments of fatigue, lifting me up when I just didn't feel like I had any more left in me. And I think the thing about this film is it was able to show our joy, our pain, our healing, our, you know, beauty. It was able to show just how complex we are as Black folks and still being able to survive it all of the ups and downs and the waves. This film put that in one area for you to see, like how the past is connected to the present and how the present will inform our future.
Yeah, so once again, my name's Jordan, and my question to you is, the beginning of the film was very graphic and at times very difficult to watch as a viewer. So in a country that waters down the experiences of slavery in the classroom, and as you mentioned earlier, with the removal of the 1619 Project, or the question about removing it, how important do you feel it was for these scenes to be overtly graphic to convey the message of the film, especially at the beginning of the film?
Sure. Well, one of the other reasons why it wasn't a easy yes for me was because of that. After I read the script, you know, I thought, okay, I know what kind of film this is. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the strength to go through that. And I don't know where I'm even going to pull it from. But then I started reading more of the script and I was like, oh, wow, this gets deep. There are twists here, there are turns, things do not appear to be what they appear to be. And I think every day, like even with police brutality, when a video comes across of one of our people being murdered or shot or killed, I have to make a decision, I'm sure just like you. Do I repost? Do I draw more attention to it? Do I tweet this out, this image or this video of George Floyd, so that people really wake up, in hopes that they wake up and realize that this is happening right now? No, this is not a film. This happened to this man. And I want to say, I actually still have not watched the George Floyd video. God rest his soul. It's hard for me to have even watched the Sandra Bland video. Like, there's so many videos floating out here. The Jacob Blake video, like, and I have to ask, and it's a question that Black people have to ask, like, do we want to relive this traumatic experience? But then we feel torn because it's like, but people need to know this is happening, right? So I go through that a lot. And I think ultimately I set on telling the truth about what happened to our ancestors. It happened. And I don't think that there was any way to water down, you know, what happened. There was actually more that happened that wasn't told, and things that we probably will never know. We will never know. But the thing about this is a film. All of these scenes have not been depicted in this reality that we live in. So I had an opportunity to go back to my hotel and like relax and like decompress or get a massage or eat some gumbo. But our ancestors didn't get that. So I said, okay, for these, however long this lasts, just know they probably had to deal with decades of it, centuries of it. So that's what kept me. And I know that change is going to happen in discomfort. We're in the middle of a revolution right now. Everybody is going to be uncomfortable with this change. My hope is that, again, those who benefit from racist policy, from white supremacy and systemic racism are more uncomfortable, that they get so uncomfortable that they do something about it. that they do the work and have the necessary conversations to dismantle the ugly truths that their ancestors brought into fruition.
This picture is clearly very, very critical for the unprecedented times that we're living in today. It was mind-blowing. It was so powerful. It was very obviously hard to digest at times, but at the end of the day, so impactful. My question is, in 10, 20, 30 years, when this film is in history books, where people are watching it in class, and it stands the testament and a true representation of the time that we're living in today, which is history, what type of impact would you like it to have had and continue to have on society at that time?
That's a great question. I never want to tell people how to take in art, how to take in an album or a song or a movie. And, you know, my hope is that people will have looked at the film as a continuation of a conversation that needs to be had, that needs to be at the forefront of change, and that change happened. Like, this was the moment that things got better for Black people systemically. This was the last movie that we had to remind people of what happened to our ancestors about. You know what I'm saying? Like, this year, a lot was accomplished, and change won't happen overnight. But I hope that this film is able to touch the hearts and the minds and reach the people who have the power, like give energy to the thought leaders, the Black folks who are leading the movement, to give energy to them, to make them feel triumphant, even in the face of opposition. And also white people who don't get it and act on it. Don't just talk about it. Don't hashtag Black Lives Matter. Really be an accomplice to Black lives by standing with us, not just marching with us, but going into your boardrooms, going into Congress, going into the House, the Senate, and making laws that protect us, that give us peace. And yeah, imagining like the next generation of people not having to deal with what we're even dealing with now.
So my question is, with microaggressions being a key point in this film, how do you believe that it contributes and continuously perpetuates the insidious ugliness of racism that prevents us from progressing to equality and inclusion?
Yes, microaggressions, and we have all been a victim of them. Yeah, this film touches on that, and it's just a reminder. It's kind of like when you need to when you're triggered by something. If you need to heal from something, if it's abandonment or rejection or whatever, somebody can say something and it just triggers, right? My hope is that the people who are on the end of microaggressions, the white folks who are the aggressors and, you know, perpetuating microaggressions, this can be a mirror, like a reflection of you, if you have done it, if you have done those things knowingly or unknowingly. Like, my hope is that this film can be a movie. I mean, not just a movie, but a mirror. And you're not gonna like what you see. Some of us will not like what we see in this film about ourselves. But the only way to change, in my opinion, is accountability and honesty on where you are and what you need to do to get to where you need to be. So some of us will feel triumphant from watching this and feel like, man, upset, angry. And some of us should look at this reflection as, I don't love the person that I am. I'm gonna do something about it.
Thank you. Well, that's our time for today. This concludes the roundtable. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you guys so much. I mean, this film definitely was inspired by, you know, people like yourselves, thinkers. I don't know what everybody is majoring in or doing, but I think that having this conversation with me and having conversations with each other will help us solve some of these issues. And when we're ready for our list of demands, we'll have them all written. Like, here's what we need to feel safe, to feel seen, and to feel heard. And so I just really want to thank you guys for, you know, taking the time to watch it, to host it, to have other folks watch it, and to talk about it, because it's just dialogue that we need to have.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Bye bye.